Good evening. You are tuning in to AWANI Tonight with me, Cynthia Ng. The move to cut government subsidies and Hajj financial assistance will only affect the T20 group, says Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim. He adds that the move is necessary in order to alleviate the burden on those in the B40 and M40 groups.
Kenapa kita nak jadikan isu ini isu politik? Tidak dikurangkan bagi majoriti rakyat. 90% rakyat itu tidak terkesan kerana tidak dinaikkan kadar elektrik. Malah kadar elektrik untuk SME, untuk industri makanan tidak dinaikkan. Jadi kita nak jadi jago siapa ini? Ya. Kemudian untuk subsidi haji, kita tak naikkan bagi rakyat. Yang dinaikkan itu untuk T20. Kamu dah kaya benar. Takkan tabung haji nak subsidize untuk pergi ke Mekah? Dan ini memang ada juga rungutan. Tapi saya tegas dalam hal itu. Kita mesti kurangkan subsidi, tidak bagi rakyat. Setakat ini saja yang kita kurangkan. Tak ada pengurangan subsidi lain.
Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim is leaving it to the Attorney General to decide on any further action on Kedah Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Muhammad Sanusi Mat Noor for his remarks that Penang belongs to Kedah. The Prime Minister confirmed that Sanusi is currently being probed under the Sedition Act after several reports were lodged on the matter.
Sebagai seorang yang ada kedudukan, kenyataan ini adalah tidak bertanggungjawab dan pihak polis telah memulakan siasatan berdasarkan beberapa peruntukan undang-undang sedia ada untuk mengambil tindakan yang sesuai menghindari daripada penerusan kenyataan-kenyataan yang melanggar prinsip perlembagaan dan undang-undang. Ini termasuklah di bawah kanun keseksaan dan juga di bawah akta hasutan. Sebahagian dari laporan telah dikemukakan kepada peguam negara, menunggu tindakan peguam negara untuk mengambil tindakan.
Anwar did not rule out that Sanusi's claims last week were made possibly due to the upcoming state polls.
Housing projects in Kuala Lumpur must include affordable homes or People's Housing Projects PPR. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim says this is to address the lack of affordable housing and meet the needs of the poor.
Ada perubahan baru sekarang yang saya pengusikan 2 bulan lalu untuk tidak meluluskan mana-mana projek perumahan sekiranya mereka tidak membina dalam pada masa yang sama projek rumah mampu milik dan juga projek perumahan rakyat menurut kepada keupayaan dan kawasan kelapangan mereka.
The Prime Minister said housing was a serious issue in the federal capital, with around 3,000 applications for affordable housing or PPR each year. However, the Kuala Lumpur City Hall, DBKL, is only able to provide 300 units per year. Anwar added that DBKL has also been asked to make adjustments regarding its strict conditions for renting a PPR unit.
The Senior Citizens Bill will be tabled for its first reading in the Dewan Rakyat next year. Deputy Women, Family and Community Development Minister Raj Muni Sabu says a dedicated team was formed in March to develop a law for the elderly.
Cadangan kandungan draft rang undang-undang warga emas ini adalah seperti berikut. Pertama, melindungi kebajikan warga emas. Kedua, melindungi hak asasi warga emas. Ketiga, memperkasakan warga emas. Keempat, memperkasakan ahli komuniti. Kelima, mewujudkan sistem sokongan yang kuat untuk warga emas terus berdaya saing juga dan bermanfaat kepada masyarakat. Dan yang keenamnya adalah mewujudkan sistem sokongan yang kukuh untuk para penjaga-penjaga warga emas.
Raj Muni added that the bill's framework would look at the Child Act enacted in 2001, which placed emphasis on protection, conservation and empowerment. Comparative analysis was also conducted on other ASEAN countries such as Vietnam, Singapore, the Philippines, Indonesia and India to ensure the bill's comprehensiveness.
As Malaysia's elderly population grows, a Senior Citizens Bill is important to ensure they receive the resources and care required to age with dignity and maintain their independence. Paulo Barbarino from Alzheimer's Disease International speaks of including provisions to protect those living with dementia.
There's a lot that can be done to try and make people's life healthier so that it's less likely that we'll develop it. But once you have it, for example, a lot of people are finding financial management quite difficult. People can get confused. So from not being able to go to the bank and access your own bank account because you don't remember passwords or you don't remember numbers, to people taking advantages of senior citizens that do live with dementia and sort of helping themselves to their saving. This is happening all over the world. Also, it's important to have anti-stigma initiatives. People that live in dementia, especially if they live alone, can be totally stigmatized and excluded from society, when actually, with some training and understanding of the condition, people can live in society for much longer, and indeed they can maintain their cognitive ability for much longer.
With many World Health Organization member states yet to create a national dementia plan by 2025, Paula also called for an extension of the deadline.
Only about 30 countries have now gotten plans. Indeed, some countries that did have plans, like England and France, have now subsumed these plans into bigger condition plans, which we do not think are satisfactory to deal with the fact that dementia touches also on so many aspects of the social. And some other countries are just not thinking about a plan at all. There is still a huge amount of stigma. So we feel that calling for an extension now, 2 years before the renewal of the plan, knowing that we will not get to another 100 plans, which would be the target by 2025, it's important so that governments and the WHO start thinking about this being a really urgent need.
The Education Ministry today reiterated its decision not to revive the Primary School Achievement Test (UPSR) and the Form 3 Assessment (PT3) anytime soon. Deputy Education Minister Lim Hui Yeng said this was because the ministry was giving focus on the development of students through implementation of the school-based assessment and classroom-based assessment systems.
Responding to a question and answer session at the Dewan Rakyat, Lim said the two assessments provide ample opportunities to develop students' potential in a more holistic approach. The ministry, she added, had updated the implementation guide for classroom-based assessments by adding a checklist on the quality assurance process, namely guidance, monitoring, tracking and coordination. The UPSR exam was abolished in 2021, while the PT3 exam was scrapped in 2022.
We'll take a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Strong and Long Baharu menguatkan rambut dari akar ke hujung. Biarkan panjang. Strong and Long.
Cause you woke up in the morning with initiative to move, so I make it harder. If you think about it, so many people do be cool and look smarter. World, the time has come to
Michelin terus berinovasi agar dunia boleh bergerak lebih laju. Michelin, bergerak kehidupan.
On with the latest updates from the second session of the UN Habitat Assembly in Nairobi, Kenya. Women leaders and experts took center stage today, emphasizing the crucial role of equality in shaping sustainable cities and communities. Executive Director of UN Habitat, Datuk Sri Maimuna Muhammad Sharif, reiterated that addressing inequality should not be solely the responsibility of women.
Addressing inequality should be everyone's main priority. This is not a job for women alone. All of us must stand for gender equality and the empowerment of women, girls, and all those discriminated against due to their gender and identity. Together we stand today, tomorrow, and going forward, because our commitment does not end with the UN Habitat Assembly alone.
I'm confident that the outcomes from today's dialogue shall go a long way in supporting and attaining SDG 11, which is about sustainable cities and communities, and through SDG 5, which is equality. We shall amplify the voice of our women through involving them in the pursuit of inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable communities.
A huge dam in the Russian-controlled area of southern Ukraine has been destroyed, unleashing a flood of water. Ukraine's military and NATO have accused Russia of blowing up the dam, while Russia has blamed Ukraine. Thousands of people are being evacuated from communities in the surrounding areas with fears of large-scale devastation. The Novakhovka Dam, that sits around 30 kilometers east of the city of Kherson, stretches all the way from the very north of the country into the sea in the south. As aerial footage showed, most of the dam was washed away and a massive surge of water heading downstream. The governor of the Kherson region said that about 16,000 people were in the critical zone on the Ukrainian-controlled right bank of the river. The dam is very important and serves a number of purposes. It holds a vast reservoir that supplies water for communities upstream. It also provides cooling water to the nuclear power station at Zaporizhzhia, which is under Russian control. The International Atomic Energy Agency said that there was no immediate nuclear safety risk, but it was monitoring the situation. Ukraine has called Russia a terrorist state at the International Court of Justice (ICJ) as hearings began in a case over Moscow's role in the downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17. Ukrainian ambassador at large Anton Korinovich made the comment with regard to the destruction of the Novakhovka Dam. It was the first time lawyers for Ukraine and Russia met at the United Nations top court since Moscow launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. A panel of 16 judges at the ICJ began hearing Ukraine's case, asserting that Moscow breached a UN anti-terrorism treaty by equipping and funding pro-Russian forces, who international investigators concluded shot down MH17 over eastern Ukraine. All 298 people, including crew members, lost their lives. Last November, a Dutch court convicted 2 Russian men and a Ukrainian national in absentia of murder for their role in the MH17 downing and sentenced them to life in prison. Moscow has tried to get the ICJ case thrown out, arguing the court has no jurisdiction.
Found on the reconstructed forward section of the fuselage.
Indian authorities are making appeals to families to help identify unclaimed bodies kept in hospitals and mortuaries after 275 people were killed in the country's deadliest rail crash in over 2 decades. Up till Monday evening, around 100 bodies were yet to be identified.
The disaster struck on Friday when 3 trains collided in the eastern state of Odisha. Following non-stop efforts to rescue survivors and clear and repair the track, trains resumed running over that section of the line on Sunday night. The health director of Odisha said authorities were trying to source ice containers to help preserve the bodies. And unless they are identified under Odisha state regulations, a post-mortem cannot be done until 96 hours has passed.
New Zealand has announced a ban on disposable vapes as part of the country's efforts to restrict tobacco sales. Its Health Minister Ayesha Viral says that all vapes without removable or replaceable batteries will be banned from August.
The government will also enforce restrictions on the opening of new vape shops near schools or Maori meeting places. Certain vape juice flavours such as strawberry jelly donut and cotton candy will be prohibited in favour of more generic names such as berry. It would also require vapes to have a child safety mechanism. Although the country already has a relatively low smoking rate of just 8% among adults, Prime Minister Chris Hipkins said new vape restrictions were needed to protect the younger population. New Zealand previously announced it would make cigarettes permanently unavailable to anyone aged under 14, gradually raising the smoking age each year until the whole population was covered.
That wraps up Awani Tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching. Good night.